Hey guys, Devin with Dust Power Sports here. I'm not a big side-by-side guy, but I got a good deal on this Yamaha YXZ 1000 Sport Shift, and I'm gonna take a whack at it. I'm gonna see if I like it. The motor in this thing is toast. They sank it in some water and spun a bunch of bearings. So we're gonna pull this thing apart. We're gonna pull the motor apart. We're gonna rebuild it. First we're gonna inspect it, see if it is rebuildable. And then we're gonna do a crank up budget build. So it's not gonna be a professional build. We're not gonna send the cylinders out and have them all replayed and so on and so forth, unless we need to. At that point, I'd probably just buy another block. But we're gonna buy what we need to. We're gonna try and get longevity out of this, obviously, but we're not gonna be spending thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars for this thing because I don't know if I'm gonna like it. So this video is gonna be the motor rebuild. And to throw a curveball at this thing.
Hey, so we Kennedy, so we
Every vehicle I drive has a manual transmission, and I'm not about to start driving a sport shift side by side.
They are a millennial anti-theft device. 98% of millennials can't drive them.
So I always said I wanted a YXZ 1000 with the 3-pedal. However, I'm not willing to buy one because I'm more of a dirt bike or a 4-wheeler kind of guy. So we're gonna 3-pedal swap this sport shift, and we're gonna show you how to do it. That'll be in a separate video. This video though is just mainly gonna be how to take the motor out, you know, how bad the internal damage is, and then how to rebuild the motor, and then obviously, will it run? So stay tuned and enjoy the video. All right, so first thing we had to do to get to this motor. For starters, we had to remove the fenders. It's super simple, just a couple bolts along the edge. And then we were able to get the trunk lid out. The trunk lid did prove to be harder than we anticipated. We did have to remove that crossbar to the roll cage. So we just flopped that down because it's got the 5-point harness attached to it. We didn't want to have to take the belts off and all that. So we just flopped that down into the cab, and that cargo trunk just slid right forward. So next thing we did was we removed the skid plates, and then we drained the oil, drained the coolant. We removed the starter, and we took the head pipe off. We were able to take the mounting hardware out of the silencer and just slide it back. That way we got enough room to be able to pull the head pipes out without having to take the full exhaust off. We removed the air box. So next thing we got to do is we're getting into the electronics. Now, we're going to be swapping this harness with a manual harness. However, since we're going to rebuild the motor first, you know, it's crucial that we pay attention to how this comes apart. So what I recommend and what we're going to do is we're going to take photos of the harness and how it's plugged in, how it's routed. There's no such thing as too many photos. So we're gonna investigate this, take as many photos as we need. We're gonna start pulling it off, and then we're gonna take the oil tank out, and we're gonna start pulling the mounting hardware. That way we can just slide it out this way. You know, this is pretty much, I mean, there's a couple of motor mounts in the front, but this is a bolted on engine cradle here, and this should come off and the motor should come out this side.
As you can see, we've removed the oil tank, unbolts here, and here. There's 2 bolts that hold the brackets for the oil line. One oil line disconnects here, one disconnects here, and there's a tube for the breather system that ties back into the air box. We're going to leave this on unless it becomes an issue and gets in the way. If your motor's been swamped or it's had a bearing issue, this is the oil cooler, and you will never get the fine materials out of it. Throw it out, invest in a new one, save yourself money, aggravation, and possibly ruining your new motor when you put it back in. What I'm going to do is I'm taking photos from various different positions of the wires. Coolant temp sensor, fuel lines. You got, I believe, this crank position sensor. I'm not quite sure because I didn't look yet. My plan is to pull all these coil wires, the injector wires, the TPS wire, and kind of just lay the wiring harness up into the cab, pull the fuel line off, lay it over here, tuck it in behind the emissions. I'm going to cap it, obviously. And then take the throttle body assembly and lay, the cable goes that way. So what I'm hoping is to lay it up there and zip tie it out of the way. I'll fill these full of rags so they don't get anything in them. I want to look at the routing, how they're laid in here. You want to be able to kind of mimic the way it was. The wires were run that way to keep them safe and so they didn't get heat damage and whatnot. And you kind of want to keep them where the factory put them because the factory's done the work as to where they belong. As you can see, I pulled the motor mount. The stator wires that ran right here, you unplug up in here. Just lay them on the motor, they'll be out of the way. Throttle body's been removed.
That's it, Billy, get the hell out of here!
Here's the wiring to it. Neatly tucks up over the top, gets out of your way. What we're getting ready to do is we've pulled the motor mount. We're gonna drain the coolant out. As you can see over there, there's the throttle body. The cable slides out from behind the head. What I gotta do is resting on the frame. You got a zip tied to the roll cage so it's out of the way. I've got paper towels wadded in it to keep it from getting dirt in it. We're gonna obviously clean it when we put it back on, but for now it just needs to be out of the way so it doesn't get damaged. We're gonna get the coolant off, the lines out, and then we'll be down to just disconnecting the other side of the motor where it's mounted, and hopefully it slides out. As you can see, it's a pretty big opening. I've got everything moved up as high as I can. And I think we're gonna, two of us will just grab a hold of it and pull it on out of there.
Oh, that's hot. That's hot.
All right, hang on. Wrong direction. All right. The coolant lines are disconnected. You can see I got it tucked up in behind the cables. We got to slide the motor out. We should be able to finagle it around this. It's a whole dry shaft coupler that goes underneath. We've pulled the motor mount bolts. The motor's basically just free floating in there. If you look in here, you can see the dry shaft. We've unbolted the coupler. There's 6 Allen bolts there. We did have to preheat those to get them out because they were Loctited. Got it a second?
Nice.
All right, guys, we got the motor out. Let's get this thing torn apart and see how bad it is inside.
We cut the oil filter and it obviously has a bearing problem. You look in the filter here. I'm not sure you can see it, but there's copper material floating around in there, and it's in the filter itself. What you're gonna need for right now is a set of Allen sockets. I got a long one here to reach a couple of these over here. What we're gonna do is start with the valve cover. We're gonna pull the cams, see if any of the journals in the head were damaged by the aluminum and the copper particles traveling in the oil system. We're gonna pull the stator, the coupler. We're gonna take the head off, then we're gonna flip the engine over, and we're gonna pull the pan and the crank out and see what there is to actually work with and determine whether we replace the motor or not. So when you pull these caps, kind of keep track. They have to go back where they came off. This one's pretty straightforward. This one, not so much. Take a picture. You'll notice the arrows pointing towards the flywheel, not the PTO side. So just make note of that as you're taking it apart. And when we pull these, we want the chain loose because the cams are going to want to push against the caps if you don't. We're going to start on the outside. We're going to pull the bolts a little bit at a time because you see how the caps are wanting to raise up. So we don't get it jammed in there too bad. No, you see as the cam comes up, it might want to tension the chain. So as you can see, this one's got this, what is it, FRC1. This is the intake side, this side. All right, as you can see, the exhaust cam didn't have the tension at the intake because the intake was probably holding a valve open. You pull these bolts out just a little, you grab them and kind of work it off. Look in there, they're not all tore up. A little mark here, which probably a little Scotch-Brite will get rid of. The front cap's going to want to come off same way. Just not all the bolts pulled out all the way, obviously. So, not sure, but don't let the cams hit the ground. That would be bad. This is the exhaust cam, this is the intake. The intake's got the bigger rib on it, here and here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna lay these in the tray, kind of like that. I'm gonna lay the caps right back on them. You can see the two, that's the exhaust. As I said earlier, it was the intake. And they're all pointed towards the sprockets. For the most part, you can see a little scratching here. So nothing, it's not tore up. It's nothing that wouldn't hone out with a little hone. So far so good. The head's not totally destroyed. So this bolt here, to get the head off, you can see the chain runs through it. So if you're doing a valve adjustment, it kind of just keeps it there so the chain doesn't fall in. Because doing a valve adjustment, you have to take the cams out. The valve shims are under these buckets. Blown head gasket. The cylinder head, the timing guides, the chain has to wait until we get the oil pan off so we can get the oil pump disconnected. So far, everything looks like it's reusable. There's minimal damage from the bearing debris. What we're going to be looking at next is whether or not any of the bearings spun in the block. It did have a rod knock, so we're assuming one of the rods is going to be junk. Hopefully we can just replace the crank. The cylinders don't look like they have any wear. We'll replace the rings, the oil cooler, put new bearings in it. We'll check the clearances on the head. Since it's going to be a personal toy, we're going to put it together right. Just not going to spend all outdoors doing it. What we're going to do is we're going to pull the pan, then we're going to pull the oil pump, and then the main bearing crankshaft retainer, and we'll see what we have left to work with in there. So here's the oil pan. You can see there's metal debris in it.
No! God, please, no! 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 No!
The bearings. What I'm hoping is we have something that's still viable. So I've removed the drive coupler. If you want to make it easy, you got to pull these 6 bolts, take the plate off, and you can get to these. I just reached behind with a 10mm wrench, took them out, and then tapped them out. It's held in with an O-ring and some sealer. And there's a 17mm bolt you got to pull. This looks like it might have been where the main problem was. The tang is still on the bearings, so they did not spin in the block, so might have got lucky there. But I'm guessing by the blue on this rod here that it's our knocker, and we'll be pulling that out shortly to have a look. But the mains didn't spin, so looks like we might have a viable block as long as the cylinders are still in good shape once we get the pistons out of there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start on what I would call the #1 cylinder. And I'm going to stamp the caps, and I'm going to put a stamp on the block. So I'm going to stamp both caps 1 and put 1 on the block that I can find. That'll help reorient them. But you can see this knob here on the rod points towards the front. It's on all of them. So it's critical that they go back in the right direction. And as you see this bearing here, you can see the tang is still on it. So if I show you the burn bearing, the tang's been ground off in it. You can tell the bearings from hammering the bearings flared out. It's probably 1/8 of an inch wider than it originally started out. You can see the discoloration on the rod here. It's definitely junk. I mean, they could probably grind it down to an undersized bearings, but for this rig, since it's going to be a personal use unit, we're going to put a new crank in it, probably OEM bearings, replace the bad rod, new rings.
If you like this video, if you found it helpful, please like, subscribe, follow us on Facebook, on Instagram, whatever, and check us out at duffspowersports.com. Thanks for watching.